Madam Chair, thank you for giving me the floor. Botswana aligns herself with the statement delivered by the State of Palestine on behalf of the Group of 77 and China, and Zambia on behalf of the African Group. Botswana commends the Secretary General for the reports under this agenda item and takes note of their recommendations. I will highlight some of the policies and programs that my country introduced aimed at eradicating extreme poverty, reducing inequality, and promoting inclusive and sustainable economic growth and development. These include public works program and programs that assist vulnerable and disadvantaged groups such as youth and women, destitute persons, needy students and children in need of care, orphans, old age pensioners, community home-based care patients, and people living with disabilities. The government of Botswana continues to improve access to basic services such as education, healthcare, electricity, sanitation, and social protection programs, which assisted to reduce the levels of extreme poverty and inequality. The government allocates more than 25% of the total annual budget to education and training. Social assistance spending is roughly 4.4% of Botswana's GDP. Through these efforts, the proportion of the population living below the poverty datum line decreased from 19.3% in 2009-2010 to 16.3% in 2015-2016, while extreme poverty was reduced from 6.4% to 5.8% over the same period. In recognition of the importance of quality education in reducing inequality and improving learning outcomes, the Ministry of Basic Education continues to improve the education system through the introduction of outcome-based education, enhancing access to early childhood education, and improving quality of education to align it with local and global trends. In addition, through Inclusive Education Policy of 2011, was introduced to ensure access and equity in education for learners with special education needs, such as learners with intellectual disabilities, hearing and vision impairment. As a result of this policy, the enrollment of learners with special education needs increased from 1,718 in 2015 to 2,194 in 2018. The Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development assists vulnerable members of society through provision of supplementary feeding to primary school children and vulnerable groups at health facilities nationwide. This program has increased school attendance and averted hunger and malnutrition among the under 5s, pregnant women, and TB outpatients. Furthermore, in 2010, the ministry introduced a program to assist orphans and vulnerable children to assist tertiary education. As of 27 February 2019, the ministry had assisted 9,475 orphaned and vulnerable children. The government of Botswana has also introduced policies, programs, and initiatives aimed at empowering and improving livelihoods of both rural and remote communities, including minority and marginalized communities. The Rural Development Council coordinates and monitors government policies, programs, and projects aimed at improving the livelihoods of rural communities. The Affirmative Action Framework for Remote Area Communities improved the livelihoods and welfare of remote area communities through economic empowerment programs, access to decent shelter, and employment. To address the negative impacts of climate change, particularly drought, the government of Botswana provides food relief and agricultural subsidies to drought-stricken communities. Botswana has declared 2019 as a drought year. In conclusion, I wish to reaffirm Botswana's commitment to addressing problems of poverty, unemployment, exclusion, and inequality. I thank you for your attention.
I thank the distinguished representative of Botswana. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Sweden.
Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, fellow youth delegates. In my capacity of being the Swedish youth delegate, I speak on behalf of over 700,000 youth engaged in over 80 youth organizations in Sweden. As a global community, we can't solve any of the challenges we're facing without the active engagement of civil society. There can be no development without civil society, and there can be no civil society without the active participation of young people. But the democratic space for civil society is under attack. Shrinking space is no longer an abnormality, Rather, it has become a global trend. Legislation to restrict rights to freedom of association, assembly, and expression have multiplied, and access to funding for civil society organization has diminished. Actors in development cooperation, human rights defenders, and staff working within civil society are subject to acts of violence, threat, and murder. Many states in this very room are responsible. We, the youth, can no longer tolerate this development. Political rights and civil liberties are declining on a global scale. This shrinking space makes the work of youth civil society organizations, social movements, young human rights defenders, and activists more difficult, dangerous, and in some cases, even life-threatening. As a result of increasingly hostile conditions for civil, political, and social engagement across the globe, youth is being prevented from being an agent of social change. Civil society organizations, including youth organizations, perform a number of functions that are necessary in promoting and safeguarding basic human rights and democracy. In fact, an open civil society is one of the most important safeguards against tyranny, oppression, and other anti-democratic tendencies. As proven during the recent climate strikes and by the growing mobilization of the youth civil society, the global youth movement are strongly committed to some of the most vital questions of our time. We are sending a clear message that enough is enough and that we won't be silent bystanders when it comes to our future. A society that doesn't place young people's participation at its core will design faulty policies and visions that don't bear in mind the perspectives of a core and crucial part of the population. Youth should be included in all levels of decision-making, and we should be subject, not object, when it comes to development, in the present, not the future. The fact that youth are being prevented from being active members of society puts our greatest chance in saving and protecting the planet and the people in jeopardy. It is therefore concerning that governments and other large organizations must be constantly reminded that civic action and participation is not the enemy, rather it is necessary. If the global community is to survive and prosper, they must acknowledge that many of the challenges they and their nation face respect no border, and that youth civil society is not the enemy. Now is the time for governments to ensure that global youth movements have the security and the resources that allows them to do their work unimpeded. It is time to treat youth as partners and initiators, not beneficiaries of development. Importantly, groups most at risk of marginalization need targeted measures to ensure that they are consulted as well as heard. National governments must develop and implement policies that provide an enabling legal environment for civic action and guarantee the right to freedom of association, expression, assembly, and information. Governments must also ensure space in political processes for inclusive citizen participation. It is crucial that regional and global actors and institutions from the global south and north actively uphold norms on civic space and strengthen accountability for government's commitment to civic space. There can be no development without civil society, and there can be no civil society without the active engagement of young people. Thank you for listening.
I thank the distinguished youth delegate of Sweden. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Georgia.
Madam Chair, Your Excellencies, fellow youth delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the upcoming year of 2020 is a deadline for achieving some of the targets set out by the UN 2030 Agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals. The adoption of this document has been a truly transformative step towards the world of clean environment, human rights, good governance, rule of law, and economic progress. It has also marked the commitment to democratization of international community by making it more accessible to previously invisible and unheard groups, such as internally displaced persons, women, and the youths. It has also emphasized the importance of including persons with disabilities in all aspects of social, economic, cultural, and political life. Young people are not only our future, but more importantly, they are our present. Greta Thunberg, who was 15 years old when she initiated the Fridays for Future movement, has a disability. She's on an autistic spectrum. Yet her social status of a girl with disabilities has not prevented her from being an enthusiast for shared future of our planet. Her participation at the UN General Assembly this year once again demonstrates the UN's commitment to inclusion. In Georgia, steps are being taken to institutionalize the SDG promotion. For instance, SDG compliance is one of the criteria for school textbook approval. I would like to thank the United Nations for including a previously invisible group of middle-income states, many of which are conflict-ridden or recovering from violent conflicts, in great need of help and support, as well as a role, a say, and a voice in the international processes. The SDGs are important for us, and the peace and sustainable development is essential not only for individual prosperity of human beings, but for our statehood existence as well. Many middle-income states face hidden but no less important and grave challenges. SDGs also underline the importance of cross-cutting and intersectional approach, recognizing that many people face barriers and challenges due to various and combination of factors, many of which are unheard, invisible, and thus overlooked. Overlapping identities may increase the likelihood of exclusion. To leave no one behind and reach the furthest behind first, as the UN Sustainable Development Goals preamble suggests, it is important to identify the persons, the barriers they face, and let them be heard first. I would like to share an experience, a story of my younger schoolmate from Tbilisi 202 Public School for the Blind. She had no choice but leave her family and move to boarding school for study. She could not even see her family once in a week or a month, as a child from any other Georgian region would have, as she is from Gali, an area in the Georgian region of Abkhazia, currently occupied by the Russian Federation. After graduating from school, she had to return back home because her family could not come with her and move out from Gali and support her during her studies at university, nor are there any conditions in Tbilisi for a disabled adult to live and study independently. There was no possibility for her in Gali to study in a specialized school, nor in the mainstream school for that matter. Thus, her being a woman with disabilities, a younger girl living in an occupied area, resulted in multiple barriers and challenges for her. But not only ethnic Georgians are shouldering the burden of the violation of their rights to education in their native language, free movement, accessing the best attainable standard of health, and participation in decision-making on the occupied territories. This burden is shared by their Abkhaz peers with whom I have talked during some confidence-building meetings. They too are concerned that the Abkhaz language is not being given due regard, facing the risk of losing its status as of instruction language in the educational establishment. To mitigate the results of the violations of these rights, Georgian government supported more than 100 young school.
I thank the distinguished youth delegate of Georgia. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Serbia. Serbia, you have the floor.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished representatives, our dear fellow youth delegates. Republic of Serbia aligned with the EU statement delivered yesterday. We take this opportunity to add some remarks in our national capacity from a youth perspective. It is truly an honor to be here today and speak on behalf of the young people of Serbia. The UN and young people are interconnected. We need each other only because with united efforts can the 2030 Agenda and the Youth 2030 Strategy become reality. The UN's 75th anniversary is fast approaching, and it is indeed the time for the UN we need. We consider it our duty to mention this defining moment right after the UN Climate Change Summit had taken place and the world pledged to accelerate global efforts to tackle climate change and express dedication to international climate policy development. Climate change is our reality. It is affecting our generations, and it is on us, the youth, to join efforts and to save our future. With an ever-increasing population of young people worldwide, we have an amazing opportunity to advance youth-related targets defined by 2030 Agenda, one of the most important pillars of social, economic, and environmentally sustainable development efforts. Serbia is strongly committed to implementing the agenda, and this year, for the first time, our country presented its voluntary national review on progress towards the implementation of the SDGs. The Republic of Serbia is dedicated to the realization of the youth's full potential, and our country is proud to have a Ministry of Youth and Sports. Serbia recognized the social position of young people and created a legislative framework for training the youth primarily through the implementation of the Law on Youth and the National Youth Strategy for the period 2015-2025, followed by the Action Plan 2018-2020. Moreover, this year, the city of Novi Sad, Serbia, is holding the title of the European Youth Capital. This has allowed the municipality to highlight the positive energy of the youth for one full year. I will leave the floor to my colleague.
In the past years, the important contribution of mobility has been increasingly recognized. The mobile youth of nations, regions, continents, and the globe are showing the world the value and importance of unity in diversity. Even so, we should all focus our efforts on making these opportunities more accessible and inclusive at all levels for every single young person. Additionally, being entitled to basic employment rights is undeniable, but millions of young people enter the job market and personally experience some of the perils of global youth unemployment crisis, most notably through unpaid internships and the weak link between the education system and the labor markets. This practice further contributes to inequality, and therefore we call on all parties to protect the young labor force and work on the objectives of easing the school-to-work transition as settled in the Youth 2030, the United Nations Youth Strategy. In Serbia, even though the general unemployment rate is dropping in the recent years, there is still a much larger discrepancy when it comes to youth. Despite all advancements made on the national level of national youth policies, Serbian youth still shares a great challenge with many other countries of the world. There has always been a gap between the policies and the young people themselves. It is therefore crucial that we all together try to promote the importance of communication and truly reaching out to the youth. Through further investment in quality education and citizenship education, we are sure that this gap can be bridged. This way, we believe that young people worldwide can be empowered to truly participate in decision and policy-making processes. Today, we decide on the future of our generation and the generations to come. We have 10 more years to achieve the 2030 Agenda, but we need to ask ourselves if we truly understand the responsibility. It is time to act now, to be the leaders of today, to use our voice, to spread the word, claim our rights, and transform our world. So let's do it together, and let's do it right now. The clock is ticking. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished youth delegates of Serbia, and I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Ukraine.
Since this is the first time the Ukrainian delegation takes the floor in this year's third committee, I would like to congratulate you, Madam Chair, and other members of the Bureau on your election and assure you of our full support. Madam Chair, despite heavy security and defense expenses incurred as a result of the Russian armed aggression against my country, Ukraine is undergoing fundamental transformation on social, economic, and political tracks. As the President of Ukraine has recently reiterated at the UN SDG Summit, our country is fully committed to the implementation of SDGs. In particular, efforts have been done to ensure sustainable economic growth, overcome poverty, and increase employment, to ensure effective law enforcement and judicial reform, as well as to promote innovation development and sustainable infrastructure, an effective public health system, affordable education, and decent work. Furthermore, recently President Zelensky signed a decree outlining the SDG for Ukraine and inviting the government, among other things, to mainstream SDGs into all its policy and strategic documents and to monitor progress achieved on a regular basis. Pursuing the goal of improving the future, one of the main priorities of the state policy of Ukraine is to boost the participation of young people in socio-economic life of the country, in particular by ensuring their self-realization and decent employment. Taking into consideration a significant level of highly skilled and talented young people aged 15-24, Ukraine intends to unlock its extraordinary and untapped potential in human capital. Having said this, now I would like to give the floor to our youth delegates who will share their vision on major challenges to Ukraine's social development.
Honorable delegates, Ukraine can be proud of its youth generation. Recently, its participation in social movements has greatly increased. I strongly believe that we as youth can play a crucial role in building a more peaceful world compared to what we have right now. A sustainable development is impossible without reaching peace and security and ensuring rights of people affected by conflict. I know firsthand that to become a refugee means to lose the ground. It was my father who had to leave his homeland during the Taliban's regime. Having moved to Ukraine, he remained not indifferent to problems of other migrants. He inspired me, showing how a driven human can make a contribution. I'm sure if international community supports migrants and refugees, they appear as a great human potential. Distinguished delegates, now in 21st century, in the heart of Europe, people hear bullet shots. So far, the Russian aggression has claimed 13,000 lives and left 30,000 wounded, as well as forced about 1.5 million people out of their homes in temporarily occupied Donbass and Crimea. Being aware of this problem, we can't remain indifferent. Inherent sense of humanity tells us to stop violence and support those who suffer. Here, a role of a single human cannot be underrated. If we remember making small and great decisions, that every human being is a holder of responsibilities, we would make this world a better place to live in.
Honorable delegates, creating a prosperous future is impossible without the involvement of the young generation. However, instead of contributing their talents to Ukraine's success story and sustainable development, many Ukrainian young people sacrifice their life plans for the sake of our country's security. Already for 6 years, Ukraine is the only country in Europe which has been fighting against the external aggression for its freedom, dignity, and the future. Let me recall a personal story of 19-year-old Andrei Eder, who was wounded in the Russian attack on the Ukrainian vessels last year. Then Russian Navy seized 3 Ukrainian vessels with 24 sailors on board, while they were making the innocent passage from one Ukrainian port to another, through the Kerch Strait. This postcard was with him during his 286 days in the Russian prison. On the backside of the postcard is a calendar, which Andrei used to count his days in the prison. Fortunately, 3 weeks ago, he returned home safely, in particular thanks to active involvement of the international community. However, his case reminds us that many Ukrainians are still illegally imprisoned, as well as millions are facing gross human rights violations committed by Russia in the temporarily occupied Ukrainian territories, namely Crimea and parts of the Donbass region. Those Ukrainians still make their marks on the calendar, and it depends on the international community whether this calendar will further count. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representatives of Ukraine. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Panama.
Señora Presidenta, permítame iniciar felicitando a la Mesa por la responsabilidad asumida al frente de la tercera comisión. Panamá se asocia a las declaraciones formuladas por Palestina en nombre del G77 y China y de El Salvador en nombre de los países miembros del SICA. El desarrollo social y la reducción de las desigualdades, en particular para los grupos más vulnerables, constituyen retos prioritarios en la Agenda Nacional de Panamá, por lo que hemos tomado atenta nota de las recomendaciones incluidas en los reportes presentados por el Secretario General para el examen del tema que nos ocupa. Al aproximarnos al 25º aniversario de la Cumbre Mundial sobre Desarrollo Social y habiéndose adoptado en la reciente cumbre de los ODS el compromiso de una respuesta acelerada, se hace impostergable la necesidad de alcanzar una mejora tangible en la calidad de vida de los ciudadanos, garantizando que ésta sea revestida de los principales ámbitos del desarrollo y abrazando el paradigma de la inclusión. Al plantearnos reducir la desigualdad en y entre los países, la inversión en las personas es fundamental. Bajo este enfoque y como un componente de significativa importancia dentro del desarrollo social, Panamá connota la primera infancia como un grupo de población prioritaria al que se han derivado recursos para asegurar una atención integral que a mediano y largo plazo contribuya a reforzar el desarrollo y a interrumpir ciclos intergeneracionales de desigualdad que propician sociedades disfuncionales y prácticas que fracturan el desarrollo social de nuestra población. Dentro de los esfuerzos nacionales, hemos focalizado el Plan Colmena, una iniciativa que abordando la pobreza desde un enfoque multidimensional y con la participación articulada de las entidades del gobierno central y gobiernos locales, busca impactar en la calidad de vida de poblaciones que viven en situación de vulnerabilidad, brindándoles una solución sostenible que pueda mejorar su condición. Subrayando el valor de las alianzas estratégicas en el alcance del desarrollo social, hemos convocado a todos los sectores a sumar esfuerzos para avanzar hacia la reducción de la pobreza, y eso incluye la integración del sector privado como un actor relevante para el alcance de la Agenda 2030 y la necesidad que se integren sus principios en las estrategias corporativas para que su participación represente más que responsabilidad social empresarial. A propósito de la transversalidad de los 17 ODS y la demanda de políticas integrales, mi país reconoce que sin educación de calidad no podremos derrotar el círculo vicioso de la población, de la pobreza sistemática, ni cambiar el status quo. De ahí que nos hemos enfocado en la educación y la capacitación para conjugar esfuerzos que aseguren mayores y mejores accesos a grupos vulnerables como las mujeres, los jóvenes, las personas con discapacidad, los adultos mayores, los afrodescendientes y los pueblos indígenas. Subrayamos asimismo el valor de la ciencia, la innovación y la tecnología como herramientas transformadoras e innovadoras que pueden contribuir con su desarrollo social pleno. Para ello se han generado espacios juveniles como la Red Nacional de Juventud por los ODS para que los jóvenes en todas las regiones del país puedan aportar e incidir en la toma de decisiones respecto a su bienestar económico y social. Panamá apoya y promueve todas las políticas que protejan los intereses de nuestros adultos mayores, proporcionándoles servicios de salud y promoviendo las condiciones para prevenir el deterioro de sus capacidades y mantener su calidad de vida. En tal virtud, saludamos la presentación del informe de la experta independiente el día de ayer. Como país en transición al desarrollo, reconocemos que el crecimiento económico no contribuye al futuro de un país si no va integrado con el desarrollo social. Tampoco será posible si no buscamos la inclusión del lenguaje de género en nuestras políticas públicas para asegurar espacios claves que puedan ocupar las mujeres en nuestras agendas. Concluyo señalando que la promoción del desarrollo social de todas las personas y la garantía de sus derechos estén protegidos es esencial para una convivencia pacífica. Muchas gracias, Presidenta.
I thank the distinguished representative of Panama. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Ireland.
Madam Chair, distinguished guests, distinguished delegate, we are the youth delegate from Ireland, carrying with us the voices of 1.2 million young people, many of whom are concerned about their future. We are concerned about our position as an agent of change in the current economic system. However, this position is undercut by the impact on our mental health. Young people in Ireland and throughout the world grew up learning that the world is a place where hard work is rewarded. If you go to school, you get a good education, you will make it. While we're studying, we're made to feel like we own the future, that it is up to us to shape the future. In fact, that we are the future. Today, there are 1 billion girls and young women who do not have the skills they need to make their way into an increasingly digitalized world. But even those of us who are lucky enough to go to second and third level education oftentimes do not benefit from what we once believed to be a meritocratic society. Madam Chair, our dreams are crushed. Crushed because our effort to create a better world are often seen as extracurricular activity, rather than stepping up and committing to a force of good. Whether this is being a youth delegate, or doing an unpaid internship, or even being a leader in our community. Our society needs to recognize that everyone has something to contribute. We need to break down the misconception of what contribution is. We live in a world that is wealthier than ever, yet some of us find ourselves struggling to survive. Our economic system is supposed to allocate our scarce resources efficiently, but instead it creates growing inequalities, destroys our planet, wastes the potential of young people, and keeps them trapped in a life of constant scarcity. Young people want a fairer, greener, and better world. But it is hard to stay confident about our future if the labor market fails to provide us with meaningful work, income security, and work-life balance. That is why it is time we shift our focus away from a recession with economic growth and towards the pursuit of good life for all. The Sustainable Development Goal offers us the blueprint for a better world. But in order to do so, we will need to set ourselves free from the pressure of a 27 economy, and only then we can concentrate on things that matters. That is people, planet, and communities.
Communities in Ireland and around the world are rocked by mental health issues. The ripple effects of a suicide in the community affects the mental health of everyone around them. Global figures from the World Health Organization indicate that 1 person dies by suicide every 40 seconds. While Valerie and I speak to you, 7 people in the world will die by suicide, 2 of which will be young people between the ages of 10 and 29 years old. Despite the prevalence of mental health issues, young people continue to mask their struggles. Stigma is a critical barrier, and we are the only ones who can put an end to it. When young people who so often raise their voice in unison for other global issues rather remain silent than speak out on their fears and insecurities to an extent of suicide, we as a society have failed. We urge the United Nations to bolster efforts in the eradication of both mental health stigmatization and suicide, especially in low and middle income countries, where 79% of all suicides occur. We call for increased collaboration with mental health organizations and for fostering the development and implementation of grassroots initiatives, allowing for people to seek support in safe spaces that are both relevant and comfortable to them. Creating the space and resources for young people to express their innermost thoughts provides the possibility of not only improving, but perhaps saving a person's life. We, as a people, have the shared responsibility to act as a light for those who are in the dark, a guide for those who are lost, and a liberator for those who are trapped in the confines of their own mind. As we say in Irish, Ní Neachtar Chur le Chéile, which means unity is our strength. When we act together, we can create a better world for everyone. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished youth delegates from Ireland. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Sudan.
شكرا سيدتي الرئيسة. في بداية هذا البيان يتقدم وفد بلادي بخالص التهنئة لكم ولأعضاء مكتبكم الموقر لانتخابكم لعضوية هذه اللجنة، ويجدد تعاونه التام مع مكتبكم، كما ويشكر السيد الأمين العام على تقاريره تحت هذا البند. ويضم وفد بلادي صوته للبيان الذي أدلت به فلسطين عن مجموعة 77 والصين، وزامبيا عن مجموعة الأفريقية. سيدتي الرئيسة، يشرفني أن أتقدم بهذا البيان في فترة تشهد فيها بلادي تغييرات عميقة على الصعيدين السياسي والاجتماعي، تحمل انفتاحا وتضمينا للحقوق والحريات، ومن شأنها أن تضع بلادي على مشارف حقبة جديدة لمستقبل أفضل. من المؤمل أن تسهم في تحقيق التنمية المستدامة وعدم ترك أحد متخلف عن ركب التنمية. فقد نصت الوثيقة الدستورية الموقعة في 17 أغسطس 2019 على اهتمام الحكومة المدنية الجديدة بالرعاية والتنمية الاجتماعية، وذلك خلال توفير الصحة، التعليم، السكن، والمحافظة على بيئة طبيعية نظيفة وعلى التنوع الحيوي في البلاد، ورعايته وتطويره بما يضمن مستقبل الأجيال القادمة. وقد كفلت الوثيقة الدستورية حقوق المرأة ومحاربة العادات والتقاليد الضارة وتوفير الرعاية الصحية والمجانية للأمومة والطفولة، وأيضا حقوق الطفل والأشخاص ذوي الإعاقة والمسنين. سيدتي الرئيسة، سعيا لتطبيق أجندة 2030 للتنمية المستدامة وقمة أديس أبابا لتمويل التنمية والالتزامات المنصوص عليها في قمة كوبنهاجن في شقها الاجتماعي، تبذل حكومة بلادي ورغم المتغيرات التي انتظمت البلاد مؤخرا جهودا حثيثة للقضاء على الفقر وتحقيق العمالة الكاملة والعمل اللائق للجميع، والتركيز على الفئات الأضعف لا سيما في المناطق التي تضررت من النزاعات، بالإضافة لمقابلة آثار تغير المناخ وتحسين الظروف المعيشية للسكان. وفي هذا السياق صاغت حكومة بلادي خطة وطنية لمكافحة الفقر شملت 17 مجالا للدعم الاجتماعي، تضمنت تشغيل الشباب، إنشاء محفظة تمويل للمشروعات، مراجعة الأجور والتوسع في التعليم ومحو الأمية وتوفير الخدمات وتحسين البيئة وتحقيق الأمن الغذائي. سيدتي الرئيسة، تعتبر الأسرة هي النواة الأساسية للمجتمع السوداني، وهي إحدى آليات توفير الحماية الاجتماعية، مما يتطلب دعمها من قبل الدولة ومنظمات المجتمع المدني. وفي هذا الصدد أطلقت بلادي مشروع استقرار الأسرة، والذي احتوى على 4 مراحل تستهدف أولاً التوعية بأهمية الأسرة ومعالجة القضايا التي تهدد استقرارها، ثانياً إجراء الدراسات لتقييم أوضاع الأسر وتحديد القضايا والعقبات، ثالثاً تعزيز ثقافة الإرشاد الأسري، ورابعاً تكثيف الجهود لتعزيز الأسرة والحفاظ عليها في ظل المتغيرات الراهنة. سيدتي الرئيسة، في إطار الفئات الأكثر ضعفاً في المجتمع، اعتمدت الدولة استراتيجية العمل والتشغيل اللائق والتمكين الاقتصادي للأشخاص ذوي الإعاقة. وبالنسبة لكبار السن، يرحب وفد بلادي بتقرير الخبيرة المستقلة بشأن حقوق المسنين، ويؤكد أن قيم المجتمع السوداني تؤكد على تعزيز مكانة كبار السن وتوفير الرعاية والعناية بهم، وتقوم الدولة بجهود كبيرة لدعم الأسر لتقوم هي بدورها برعاية كبار السن. وتعنى الدولة بتعزيز حقوق الأطفال وتوفير الحماية لهم، خصوصا في المناطق المتضررة من النزاعات، والرعاية الصحية والنفسية، وتأهيل الذين تم إطلاق سراحهم من قبل الحركات المسلحة وإدماجهم في المجتمع. كما تم اعتماد مشروع السلم والأمن والعنف ضد المرأة، استنادا على أن عملية بناء السلام وحفظه تعد من أهم الأولويات التي تضمن للمرأة الأمن والاستقرار. ولتحقيق ذلك تضمن هذا المشروع العديد من الأنشطة التدريبية وورش العمل وإنشاء مراكز متعددة الأغراض بقرى العودة الطوعية. ختاما سيدتي الرئيسة، تتطلب المرحلة الانتقالية التي يمر بها السودان وفي سبيل تعزيز وتحقيق التنمية الاجتماعية الكثير من الجهود، الشيء الذي يتطلب إحكام التنسيق وتعميق التعاون الدولي وبناء القدرات الوطنية من خلال الشراكات الفاعلة مع المجتمع الدولي، بهدف مواجهة التحديات والتي تشمل بناء قاعدة معلومات لاحتواء الفقر، الوصول للفئات الأكثر ضعفاً، توفير الاعتمادات المالية اللازمة للبرامج الاجتماعية، إشراك المجتمعات المحلية، مقابلة احتياجات النازحين واللاجئين وإعفاء ديون السودان، ومقابلة مخاطر تغير المناخ. وشكراً سيدتي الرئيسة.
I thank the distinguished representative of Sudan. We have heard the last speaker on my list for this meeting. The committee will continue its general discussion of Agenda Item 25 this afternoon at 3 p.m. sharp And the first three speakers on my list are Afghanistan, Nigeria, Bulgaria. Before adjourning, I wish to remind the committee that the deadline for submission of draft proposals under this item is Friday, 11 October at 1 p.m. The meeting is adjourned.